Hey everyone, welcome back to Paper Therapy with Amy. It's Christmas Eve here and I'm working on a one-page layout. I have a story behind these pictures. These are all eagles and I will tell you that story as we go along. When I printed these out, one paper came to mind immediately, and that paper was this one here. Now, this is kind of made for cards, I think, because the image is on both sides. So obviously I don't want it upside down over there, so I will not be using this as my background, but I will probably do some tearing and stuff to make like snowdrifts, and I'm not sure yet if I'm going to keep the deer or not. I might. So let's put them on there. I will mat these, and I think I'm going to put them just like they are, like this. And I might rearrange them, but this grid pattern. And I do want to tell a story. Now, I have quite a long story to tell. These aren't the best pictures in the world, but the story is the best part. But I had these. These came from, the clearance had some pocket cards. I don't even remember what they were called. But anyways, I had these. I'm not going to use these, but they give a good idea. So I liked kind of having these top and bottom. I thought they looked kind of good with this, or even like the whole way. Down, but I think I'll do like this. But I thought, what if my story was written on these? So I am going to try that, and I'm going to show you how it can be done. I can type it out, but how do you make it so the background is black? And some of you might know that already, but some of you might not. So I'm going to help you figure that out. So the first thing I need to do that is to measure how much room I'll need. So I have to decide if I'm going to have a frame and I'm going to come down, or if I'm going to go like this. So, and if I'm going to double mat the background, or have bars going across this way, or what I'm going to do exactly. So this helps to kind of decide how you're going to do things. And then let's imagine that doesn't add much to it. Black might. I do like that. Let's try one more color. Maybe two more. Here's charcoal. No, I don't like charcoal. Maybe I want to try sapphire. Oh, I do love the sapphire because it brings the, I know the photos, the blue in the photos is a bit weird, but it's just because it was such a cold day. So I think I'm going to end up using sapphire, and then possibly some white background or some torn layers to go up the rest of the way. The back of this one will work as well because it has this kind of snowy looking background, and then some of the other papers do have nice backgrounds in this pack too, like this one here has a nice background. So that's possible. So I'm going to get those cut down and these put onto a mat, a white mat, and then I'll be right back. I've placed these 4 photos on a mat together so I can move them around. I'm just going to ink around the edges of this. I wanted to let you know the sizes of the photos if you're trying to recreate this. They are 3x3 and 3x4. They may be slightly smaller than that. I may have trimmed them down a little bit, so that might be including that white edge. But they're approximately that size. I'm using a trick here, kind of a tried and true scrapbooking method for tearing paper. If you use a water brush and draw a line, you can kind of have a guided tear, and that way I could go around the trees and not worry that I was going to kind of rip into them. I'm also going to bring in a few other colors of blues and maybe gray to give me this kind of snowdrifty look, and to have lots of texture and layers on this page. I won't make you watch all the tearing. You get the idea from the colors that I have here, kind of what look I'm going for. I'm also using the torn off pieces from this paper from Winter Meadow so I can tuck it into other parts of the layout so that I can bring it across the layout. So it's not just in that one spot where I'm going to have the trees, which is along the bottom of the page. I've still got this sapphire paper here that is going to change eventually, but for now, that's what I'm using for my frame. And I'm just kind of tentatively laying these out and deciding what's going to go in the middle section. So I'm going to have some of these tears coming down from the top as well, and then I need something across the middle section, and I decide to go with some white cardstock. But of course the white cardstock is boring the way it is, so I'm going to do some treatments to it to make it look more interesting. I just got this watercolor paper at the dollar store, and this is the right size for me. This page will have quite a bit going on, but this is a story. I don't really have any pictures of us, but I really wanted to tell a story with this layout. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a few minutes here. For right now, I'm just going to get out my all-purpose mat, and I'm going to be doing some watercoloring here on the background. In order to do watercoloring, I just press the ink pads to the mat face down, and then I just add water until I get the amount of color I want. And full disclosure, this is my second try. My first try was a little too dark, so it's dollar store watercolor paper, so it's okay if it takes you a bit to figure out how you want it. You do have to wait for it to dry or use a craft heater to dry it completely, but I had some other things to do while I waited for it to dry, so that was all right. Here in Canada, if you live out in the country, you will have an address. I guess it's like an address. If the ambulance ever had to go to your farm, they have something called a land location, and it has to do with how far you are from the town of the county or municipality you are in. So this is the land location that I'm stamping. I don't remember the exact numbers anymore, but I looked it up on a map of our county, and this is the land location we had to go to. It's not really my title, but I just kind of wanted to put something in the background here that gave the idea of that we had to go out to a certain space out in the country to find these eagles. And it was just kind of in an abstract spot out in a farmer's field. I'm also stamping some snowflakes, and I'm going to emboss them with white embossing powder. I finally broke down and bought that white embossing powder. It's a 3-pack that you can get. It's the Wow brand, and it's quite expensive, especially here in Canada. So I was kind of torn whether I was going to buy it or not. But in the end, I did break down and buy it. And it lasts a really long time because, of course, you just keep reusing it and using it. And I actually used two. I used the white and the clear for this layout. And I've actually used the white once before already as well. So I'm just going to use a little paintbrush here to take off any of the excess powder if it's somewhere where it shouldn't be. And then I'll use the craft heater. I have the old craft heater from Close to My Heart back in the day. I'll just use that to warm it up until those little granules melt, and then you get that pretty snowflake effect that's kind of raised and bright white above the watercolor painting that I have in the background. So on this day that the pictures were taken, it was extremely, extremely cold weather, cold to the point that school was canceled. It was, I believe, minus 40 Celsius, but minus 40 is the same in Celsius and Fahrenheit. And it might even have been colder when you factor in the wind chill. So I was sitting in the living room with my youngest son. He was 15 at the time, and we were just on our phones, and I was looking at Facebook, and somebody on our community chat from our hometown here had come along and said, there's 50 to 100 eagles sitting in the trees at... And then he put in Range Road such and such and Range Road such and such. And I looked up where it was, and it was like a 15-minute drive or so, maybe less. And I said to my son, do you want to go there and see this? And he says, if you buy me a McDonald's McDouble, then I will. Anyone with teenagers knows that getting your teenager to hang out with mom is quite something. So I said, sure, I'll buy you a McDouble. And we headed out there to check out these eagles. As a side note, you can see I've changed my background frame. I had this in my stash. It's black paper with white dots, basically looks like snow flurries. And I felt like I needed more black on the layout because I'm going to be doing the journaling as white on black. So we got out there, and as we were driving up to the spot, we could see the eagles flying in the field across from these trees and hunting. So we knew that they were there. And we pulled over on the road, and sure enough, we only counted 30, but but there was many eagles there. They were incredibly beautiful to watch. And my phone camera didn't really do them justice, but there was a lady there with a great big zoom lens, and I said, would you mind sending those to me? I'm a scrapbooker and I'd love to scrapbook them. So she actually emailed them to me later on. So it was pretty cool to see. Now, bald eagles don't really migrate. So I was kind of curious what they were doing there. And as far as I can tell from researching online, when the waterways start to freeze in Canada, so moving water takes a long time to freeze, but it was very cold. Then, because eagles get 60 to 70 apparently % of their diet from fish. So when the waterways start to freeze, then the eagles head north to Alaska because they can fish in the ocean there, and there's such an abundance of fish there. They'll often go there for the rest of the winter. So apparently they don't really migrate, but they do follow food sources, and that's probably what they were doing in this case. Well, now I'm at the point just about that I need to add my journaling in. So I'm going to show you on my computer here. I did a screen recording so I could show you how I go about this. Now, this is Pages. It's an Apple app on my Mac, but you could use any Word app. And you create a text box, and you need to find where the text box measurements are. In this case, it's under one of these tabs, and I think it's under Arrange. And you change the measurements to what size you want your text box to be. So I measured the place it was going to go, and I made sure it was the exact right size. Now, you will have to convert, if you're using a Mac and you're using Pages like I did, then you will have to convert this from inches to, so if you want 3x4, you'll have to go on to Google and say, what is 3 inches in centimeters, so that you get the right measurements. I do end up changing this into 2 text boxes because I need one on the top and one on the bottom. But I typed up my story here, and then once I had that all typed up, I went in and I made the background. So I selected under style, I selected the background of the box and made that black. Then of course you couldn't see any of my writing because my writing was also in black. So then you have to change your font to white. And I can see here I have a little spelling or grammar error that I have to fix that's got red underlined. And so then you have a black text box with white typing in it. This is where you decide whether you want it to be centered or left or right justified. This is also when you change your font and the size of your font to make sure it fits the box that you have. You may want to reword a few sentences so that it ends on a nice spot, so it looks pleasing to the eye, but you can also just leave it so that there is kind of a gap at the end. It's not that big a deal. You'll want to mark your piece of printer paper and mark it so that you know which side has to go down or up when you feed it into your printer, and then print off a sheet, and then you'll glue or use tape runner to put a piece of cardstock over the text that you're going to use. So I'm just going to do that right here. I'm going to use tape runner to put this white daisy over top of my cheap printer paper because I know exactly where it's going to print now because I printed a test sample and made sure it was the right size. And now I'm going to put this in the bottom tray of my printer face down because that's how my printer works. And then it just fires it out on this cardstock, and I'll just trim it down to size, and there you have it. I have what looks like a decorative paper to decorate my page that has my actual journaling written on it. So I thought that was pretty neat. Now that was the first time I ever did screen recording on my laptop to show you how to do something, to make a little print file like that. If you have any questions about how I did it, just put them down below in the comments and then I will answer them to the best of my ability. But I use the Pages app for Apple. Now I'm going to use this little pocket card for my title. I've sliced it all up into little lines and I'm deciding where to put it. I started with it on the one side and then ended up deciding to put it over on this side because it wasn't really blocking any eagles, any actual birds there. And I decided to dovetail the ends and distress it with ink so that it really blended in well with the page. I didn't love the journaling floating there all by itself, so I did add that other piece of snowflakey paper down the side to kind of anchor it there. And it also gives it a few lines going horizontally, or I mean vertically, because there's a lot of ripped lines going horizontally. So here is the second use of embossing powder just coming up here. I used Versamark, and I took these little snowflakes that I had cut from dies that I have in my stash, and I placed them face down on the Versamark ink pad and pressed them on there. And then I put clear embossing powder over the face of them and melted it. And I did that 3 times so that I had like little glossy snowflake ephemera. Obviously, this was more of a mixed media layout, and I really took my time with it. It was Christmas Eve, and I just really wanted to enjoy creating, and I'm glad I recorded it for you guys, but I definitely, I wasn't in a rush to get this layout done. I was really enjoying the process. So I want to thank you so much for stopping by and watching this. And if you enjoyed it, I would just love it if you hit that thumbs up button, and I'd love to have you as a subscriber to my channel as well. I want to wish all of my subscribers and everyone who's watching a very happy new year. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I will catch you all next time here on YouTube. Bye.